From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefania Bravo, and this is From the South. The British Prime Minister Theresa May has postponed the parliamentary vote on Brexit scheduled for this Tuesday. She made the announcement after it became clear that she would not be able to secure a majority. The Northern Ireland border is one of the main issues MPs disagree on. Now, May says she will discuss Brexit deal concerns with EU leaders.
It is clear that while there is broad support for many of the key aspects of the deal, on one issue, the Northern Ireland backstop, there remains widespread and deep concern. As a result, if we went ahead and held the vote tomorrow, the deal would be rejected. Having spent the best part of 2 years poring over the detail of Brexit, listening to the public's ambitions and, yes, their fears too, and testing the limits of what the other side is prepared to accept, I'm in absolutely no doubt that this deal is the right one.
In response, opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn has criticized the Prime Minister over the confusion on Brexit. The Labour leader says this Brexit deal is bad for the UK. Corbyn has urged May to build a consensus in Parliament before heading to Brussels again.
Can she be clear with the House? Is she seeking changes to the deal or mere reassurances? Does she therefore accept the statement from the European Commission at lunchtime saying that it was the only deal possible, we will not renegotiate, our position has not changed?
The United Nations Conference on Migration has endorsed the Global Pact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration. The pact was approved by leaders and representatives of over 160 countries, despite the withdrawal of the United States and a number of European countries who are opposed to the agreement. Hailed as the first international document on managing migration, it lays out 23 objectives to open up legal and safe migration.
The compact is not a treaty. Moreover, it is not legally binding. It is a framework for international cooperation rooted in an intergovernmental process of negotiation in good faith that specifically reaffirms the principle of state sovereignty.
Let's take a closer look at the United Nations Migration Conference, where members took new measures to make life safer and more dignified for people on the move. Here's a quick list of who voted for the pact and who opposed it.
The UN Migration Pact, aimed at improving the way the world deals with the migratory flow, was agreed in July by all 193 members except the United States. But on Monday, only 164 countries signed the final agreement. The US was the first government to reject the proposal last year. Since then, Australia, Austria, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Latvia, Poland and Slovakia have also pulled out of the process. Among the Latin American countries, Chile and the Dominican Republic have voted against the agreement. Meanwhile, Bulgaria, Estonia, Italy, Israel, Slovenia and Switzerland are still undecided on whether to agree to the new pact. The United Nations estimates there are about 258 million migrants in the world, or just over 3% of the world's population.
Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jorge Arreaza is attending the Migration Summit. Arreaza has already met with different leaders to discuss migration. His government defends the idea that migration flows should be secured and ordered to guarantee the migrants' rights. Venezuela is a country with heavy flows of migrants, both going in and out of the country. French President Emmanuel Macron has met with trade unions, local politicians and ministers to discuss the yellow vest demands. The meeting was held after a fourth weekend of protests across France, which took 250,000 people to the streets. Macron has received criticism for his silence over the violence during protests. He is expected to make a public statement about the outcome of the discussions in the coming hours. Meanwhile, several high school students have been arrested in Paris when they were trying to block access to a high school. Some of them were handcuffed by security forces who also fired tear gas against other students. Last week, students also blocked access to high schools across France to protest against education reforms and to join the Yellow Vest protest. Our correspondent in Paris, Sergio Rodrigo, gives us more details.
President Emmanuel Macron will make a public statement at 8 in the evening local time. He's expected to address the people regarding the protests that have hit the country for the last 4 weeks. 80% of the people still support the Yellow Vest protest. President Macron has met with the labor unions representatives, the President of National Assembly, and the President of the Senate. The Yellow Vest movement is waiting for the statement of Macron to decide what to do next, although they say they will keep on protesting because they are demanding Macron's resignation. Demonstrators are also holding more protests across the country. In the border with Spain, they are blocking the traffic to protest against the government's measures. They say living conditions are worse than before. It is not only fuel, but also there has been a rise in different taxes in the last months, and they mainly affect the working class.
We thank Sergio for that report. And moving on, the National Electoral Council of Venezuela has announced the results of Sunday's municipal elections. Out of 335 electoral lists across the country, 156 of them have been assigned. 142 were won by the United Socialist Party. Over 20 million Venezuelans were eligible to vote for local councillors. Almost 5,000 local candidates from 51 political groups and parties took part in this election. A delegation from the Center of Latin American Electoral Experts oversaw the process. More on Sunday's election in this report.
Venezuela has carried out yet another democratic election, electing councillors at the municipal level of government.
It's a clean process, once again put to test by our National Electoral Council. And with this, we say to the world that we are a peaceful people, and we, Venezuelans, make our own decisions.
The process of voting comes naturally for Venezuelans who've exercised their right to cast a ballot 25 times in the last 20 years.
This process is happening as Venezuela is under siege, with a media war that tries to discourage people from voting, the delegitimization of electoral organizations, attempts to demotivate voters. But as it turns out, with all the problems we've had, our ability to vote has always been a way to find solutions to our problem.
The people, through their vote, are restating their sovereignty. It's clear proof that there's confidence in the electoral guarantees of the Venezuelan system.
This has shown the entire world that it's transparent. This has demonstrated completely that this is a straightforward process. A great number of people have come from other countries to oversee the process. That shows that it's completely transparent.
With this election, the cycle of elections held over the past year comes to a close.
We have held 25 elections, of which we have lost 2. But this is a country which has held 25 elections, something the world has not and will not see elsewhere. It's a democracy.
The elected councillors will be the new voices who, via municipal chambers, will enforce the laws and will plan and design investment programs over the period of 4 years.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
Acompañamos a los pueblos que resisten en cada una de sus luchas.
Somos esa ventana que se abre para visibilizarlos entre fronteras.
Thursdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Peru has approved the constitutional reforms to fight corruption, with more than 80% of the ballots counted. The reform on how to name members of the Supreme Court, a regulation on funding of political parties, and to forbid the re-election of Congress members were approved. But people rejected the proposal to return to a bicameral Congress. President Martín Vizcarra took away his support to this last question, saying Congress had made substantial changes to the reform which he did not agree to.
Through this intermediary, I want to thank Peruvians for trusting in this government. We will not disappoint you, and in the coming days, during this week, we are going to address the nation on the next steps and an analysis so that things are a little calmer, and with the results of the referendum.
24 million Peruvians went to the polls for Sunday's referendums. President Martín Vizcarra had announced the reforms in August following a series of high-profile corruption scandals with former presidents and public officials involved. The electoral process also coincided with the runoff to elect governors. The largest favela in Sao Paulo is home to Heliópolis Community Radio, a station which features music and news, as well as information on public health and human rights. Let's take a look at this project.
87.5 is Radio Heliópolis FM. Call 22727906. Ask for a song, ask for your hit, make a complaint, talk to us.
Heliópolis, home to some 100,000 residents, is the largest favela in São Paulo. Since 1992, when members of the local LGBT community started a pirate radio station, it has also become known as one of the most gay-friendly neighborhoods of its kind in the Americas.
We always correct each other when we hear things that sound homophobic. We say, Opa, stop, that's not funny.
We've worked a lot to fight against homophobia, to accept others the way they are. So me and my friends, for example, don't even joke around about it. We don't make homophobic jokes.
Radio Heliópolis went on to become the first legal community radio station in São Paulo, and its transmission signal, broadcast from a 30-meter tower in the middle of the neighborhood, now reaches a geographical area with a population of 800,000. For the past 26 years, Radio Heliópolis has featured music and local news, mixed with information on public health and human rights, much of it centered on LGBT issues, and local residents have called in to complain about incidences of homophobia in the neighborhood. The publicity that this generated led to significant decreases in prejudice in Heliópolis. Now followers of right-wing extremist President-elect Jair Bolsonaro have started harassing trans women, gays, and lesbians in São Paulo. Jairo Barbosa is one of the station founders. She says that the attitude of the president-elect in relation to the LGBT community encourages increases in homophobic behavior.
The new president is in favor of the extermination of the LGBT population. He's very clear about this. So we, trans people, are very anxious and worried about what is going to happen.
Jair Bolsonaro will take office this January 1st. In São Paulo, this is Brian Mir reporting for Telesur.
Mexican priest and human rights activist Alejandro Solalinde has embarked on a project to register members of the migrants' caravan sleeping on the streets of Tijuana. Solalinde and a team of volunteers are interviewing migrants to find out what they want, taking details on the professional training to help them in their search for jobs and asylum applications. The project aims at helping migrants while they are waiting for a chance to enter into the United States. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has announced plans to increase the budget of Pemex. The state-owned oil company budget will increase by over $3.7 billion in 2019 in order to enable a larger oil and gas production. The government aims at reaching production levels of 2.4 million barrels a day by the year 2024.
We are going to finance all the oil activity with the Republican austerity plan. We increase investment in Pemex by 75 million pesos.
la inversión en Pemex.
Ecuador's National Assembly will choose the country's new vice president on Tuesday. Maria Alejandra Vicuña resigned from her post after President Lenín Moreno relieved her from her duties amid a corruption scandal she was linked to. Assembly members will have to choose among three main candidates proposed by Moreno. Protests have taken place in Haiti to reject corruption and the current administration. People gathered in capital Port-au-Prince called by the opposition. Police fired tear gas against protesters and several were arrested. Member states of the Caribbean Community CARICOM have reinforced their support for Cuba despite U.S. sanctions. The regional body released a statement to mark the 46th anniversary of diplomatic relations with Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and Cuba. CARICOM countries say they are committed to solidarity with Cuba. Cuban ballet star Carlos Acosta has premiered his biographical film called Yuli at Havana's 40th International Film Festival. Yuli tells a story of success and perseverance based on Acosta's autobiography, No Way Home. Acosta was trained at the National Ballet School of Cuba and performed with some of the world's greatest ballet companies. Indigenous farmers in the north of Guatemala have celebrated the 13th anniversary of their organic market. This project was built to support the work of campesinos in the area.
More than 300 farmers from the indigenous communities of Chisec municipality in Alta Verapaz arrived to their local market to celebrate its 13th anniversary.
We are celebrating the 13th anniversary of this farmers' market. Around 1,500 people have gathered here, a representation of all the communities of the municipality.
This is one of the biggest markets in the north of the country. According to its organizers, this selling space right here was created to support the campesino agricultural production and organic farming.
Before this market was created, we sold our products here and there. But now everything is more comfortable because we can sell what we produce in a very good market.
More than 300 campesinos sell their products in this market. Farmers cultivate their crops using an historic indigenous method known as farm diversification.
We started selling just a few products, but now we are selling more and more. We grow our products in a way we can actually earn some money.
Each year, people from other communities join the market anniversary to celebrate the campesino work.
It is important for all of us to support our communities, hoping they work and reach other places.
Farmers have celebrated the market's anniversary for the last 5 years.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us.
Our actions have an impact on the environment. It's our responsibility to change for the sake of our planet. Let's be part of this transition. Watch, preserve, and protect your Earth. Green Zone. Wednesdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Protesters have disrupted an event on fossil fuels at the COP24 climate talks organized by the United Nations in Poland. A group of activists entered a panel sponsored by the United States. They chanted, "Keep it in the ground" and "Shame on you." They criticized Trump's administrations for backing the extraction of fossil fuels and its burning, which increases global warming.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
But the impacts to our frontline communities are not. We hold the solutions and we know that we must keep it in the ground. Our Mother Earth has been mined, drilled, fracked, and poisoned with radioactivity. We will allow no more.
The European Union has blacklisted 9 people involved in the so-called rebel elections in East Ukraine. The body has also announced there will be no further measures against Russia over tensions with Kiev in the Azov Sea of Crimea. 28 EU national leaders are set to decide at the end of this week whether to extend the bloc's existing sanctions against Moscow.
We need to continue with the sanctions policy that we are conducting because as long as there is no progress in terms of the implementation of the Minsk agreement, there is no reason to change our policy. We are ready to examine whether we need to go further based on the situation, but the most important thing is to restore calm in the Azov Sea and guarantee freedom of navigation.
Train operators in Madrid's subway are going on strike for 10 days. Our correspondent in Spain, Eduardo Marín, explains.
This
Monday is the first day of a 10-day strike organized by the Union of Train Operators in Madrid subways. There will be stoppages on lines 6 and 10 of Metro Madrid from Monday to Friday between 6 and 9 in the morning, peak commuting hours. This strike will continue next week, also from Monday to Tuesday, with the affected lines being 1, 2, 3, and 5, between 5 in the afternoon and 10 in the evening, when citizens are returning home after their day at work. Train operators are complaining about the lack of trains and workers, which provokes congestion and security problems. Also, they're complaining about the Commission opening itself to using asbestos, a toxic material that may provoke cancer, and that was used in the construction of trains for years. Workers are also angry that a collective bargaining agreement has not been agreed to. The regional government in Madrid has established 75% minimum services, something that has also been criticized by the union. All of this is happening just some days after the so-called Madrid Central was opened, that is, traffic restrictions in the center of the city intended to promote the use of public transport.
Around 2 million people are still displaced in Iraq a year after the government announced the defeat of the Islamic State. More in this report.
The refugee camp of Nimrud in the north of Iraq houses more than 650 families that were displaced fleeing the Islamic State. Over the weekend, heavy rains flooded the place, forcing them to take refuge inside the schools and nearby mosques.
It's been a year and 4 months since we fled from our home. Our house was in Tel Afar and is now destroyed. Where can we go? We have no other option but to stay in the camp. We have nothing else. Where can we go?
The homes of those displaced were destroyed during the military operations fighting the Islamic State. People who fled violence are also afraid to go back. They fear retaliation from members of the Islamic State that previously controlled the area.
The rain flooded the Nimrud camp. More than 650 tents were destroyed along all of personal belongings.
A year after the government announced the Islamic State was defeated, almost 2 million people are still displaced in Iraq. According to the Norwegian Refugee Council, 500,000 have no basic services nor a proper home, but they hope some solutions to this are underway.
These camps were not built as a permanent solution. Another problem we see is that the foreign governments that were helping Iraq stopped the aid. They consider that after the defeat of the Islamic State, help is not needed anymore. The Islamic State was defeated, but Iraq is destroyed.
In 2003, the United States invaded Iraq. 15 years later, its people are still suffering the consequences of a conflict that left thousands of people killed in a devastated country.
Yazidi activist Nadia Murad and Congolese Dr. Denis Mukwege have received the Nobel Peace Prize for their work combating rape as a weapon of war. During the ceremony in Oslo, the laureates have said they hope their award raises awareness of this type of violence. Murad, who is an Islamic State sex slave survivor, is now a powerful advocacy for Yazidi women. Dr. Mukwege has worked for decades helping victims of sexual violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
The goal of the Islamic State in erasing this religion will be achieved if it is not protected. This is also the case for all the other weak minorities in Iraq and Syria. After the failure in the Iraqi government and the Kurdish Iraqi government in protecting us, the international community also failed to save us from Daesh or to prevent this genocide from happening.
The
Congolese people have been humiliated, mistreated, and massacred for more than 2 decades with the awareness of the international community. Today, thanks to new information and communication technologies, nobody can no longer say, "I didn't know." With this Nobel Peace Prize, I call to the world to be a witness, and I urge you to put an end to this suffering that shames our common humanity. The people of my country desperately needs peace.
People in the Congolese city of Bukavu have celebrated Mukwege's Nobel Peace Prize win. Dr. Mukwege founded there the Panzi Hospital in 1999 to treat women victims of sexual abuse. The gynecologist has spent 20 years treating trauma inflicted on women in conflict. And with that story, we've come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, as always, find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And for our viewers in Africa, we are on StarSat channel 461 in South Africa and channel 539 in Nigeria. Also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Stefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.